I do this every time, y'all. Oh my gosh, I do this every time. I just start talking and the mute button is on. But anyway, thank you all so much again for being here on Shaking Up the Algorithms. It's your girl, Miss J, all day, and we are here for our first night of the women's session, the Sister Circle. And let me tell you, this is a circle of powerful women tonight. And I'm super excited to have them on. I'm super excited to even have them on my stage, period. These are all women that I know. Oh my God, I just love it. I just love it already. So, with that being said, I want to again apologize for the delay tonight. Had some inconsistencies with an outage with the internet, but we're up and running. Thank goodness the internet literally just came on as soon as I hit the live button. So, God is good. Okay. So, so with that being said, I want to start bringing up my guest for the evening, and so that you can see this lineup of phenomenal women. Okay. First and foremost, we have one of Houston's own. This is a wonderful, how can I say? I don't even know how to describe her. It's just no words to describe her. She's just awesome at everything that she does. But she is also a podcaster, producer, and all of these good things as well. Let's bring up Rosalind Omaka. Come on up, sweetheart. Beautiful, beautiful. Next up, we have awesome woman of God, one of my good friends, and you've also seen her husband on the show as well. So let's bring up Apostle Maria Henson. Next
Hello.
up, what happened, Maria? We got to fix your camera. But other than that, let's move on to the next person. We have this woman. I'm gonna tell you, I've been rocking with her now. It's been at least about, I want to say 5, 6 years. She started off as a business mentor and became a supporter and became a friend all at the same time. So let's bring up the one and only Dr. T. Come on up, Dr. Tanya. Next up.
Hello.
Next up, this young lady right here, no words at all to describe her. She is the bomb.com. If you are having issues in your love life, you need some more intimacy in your life, this is the young lady that you need to talk to. Let's bring up the love coach, Tosh Johnson. Next, we got another love specialist in the building, okay? Another love specialist, right? This woman has been a coach for at least about the last 10 years, trying to rebuild people's relationships, marriages, and getting them ready for marriage. And so let's bring up this young lady as well, my girl, Kim Love. Come on to the stage. Next up, ladies, next up. Okay. Now, I was telling these young ladies in the background, this woman, I've been knowing her umpteen years, I guess you could say. She's from my hometown, you know, Virginia's finest. Let's bring her up. Miss Sherelle Hurt. Come on up, madam. Next up, another one of Virginia's finest. Love this young lady. She is doing an awesome job with her foundation as well, helping other women and equipping other women that have suffered from domestic violence. So let's bring her up as well. The newlywed, Miss Sonia Cartwright. And this young lady, let me just tell you, I met her. I haven't even met her. Let's put that out there. I heard her, okay, on Clubhouse, and she was a powerhouse. And I said, as soon as I heard her, I was like, I've got to connect with her some kind of way. Like, I got to stay in contact with this woman. Let's up the phenom, Miss Elizabeth Morris. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
And lastly, I'm going to bring up my girl here. Let me just tell y'all, she has been like a big sister. She is the biggest supporter of this show, I would say, and the biggest supporter of Team Shawan. So let's bring her up. Miss Cece, CS Realty Realtor CC Smith. Come on up, ma'am. Thank y'all, ladies, again so much for being here. This is definitely, oh my God, words can't express you all being here. But what I wanted to jump into, because like I said, we just finished a men's segment and we had men of all different ages, all walks of life on here, just kind of having that intimate space where they could talk about manhood, give their viewpoints on certain things regarding relationships and things of that nature. So, because that was so powerful, I wanted to do that for us as well. So tonight, I definitely want to touch on a couple of topics, right? One of them being what constitutes or what are the makings of a good woman? And we hear this all the time. You know, we look at ourselves and we're like, oh, yeah, we're great women. I'm a great woman. But everyone's definition of what a good woman is different. And I feel like it's important that we have this dialogue so that other people will kind of know what women actually think. You know, people don't know unless they ask. So, with that being said, I don't know if we want to go first, but I definitely want to get everyone's feedback to kind of find out what is your definition of what you think a good woman is, and then we can kind of piggyback or move on from there, because I also want to talk about not just the definition per se, but what are some of the areas that you see as women that we are lacking or that we can do better in. I can honestly say for myself, I've had to go through some tumultuous times in order to get to where I am today. But I've learned a lot along the way, and I've learned some of the areas that I needed to correct, even when I communicated with my partner or communicated how I felt without being, excuse my language, but without being bitchy. You know what I'm saying? Coming off in a loving tone, you know what I mean? But still getting my point across. So those were some things that I know I personally had to learn. But again, I want to hear from everyone here. Now, I think I'm gonna just pick somebody because I already got somebody in mind. So I'm gonna start with Kim Love. Go ahead, Mr. Love. Go ahead and let us,
Hey, hey, hey. First, Shawan, let me say this. Thank you so much, sweetheart, for allowing me to be on your platform. I think that this is going to be an amazing meeting of the minds. The making of a good woman, in my humble opinion. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it breaking up?
No, ma'am. You
Oh,
good.
okay. I hear it a little bit in my ear. So I think the making of a good woman is that a good woman is someone who has not let life defeat her, who rolls with the punches, who learns, who uses each and every opportunity, experience to grow her, to mature her, use it as stepping stones, if you will, to learn how to become everything that she may have thought that she was, but she wasn't. And now I am becoming the woman so that I don't make those same mistakes again. So there's a lot that goes into making us who we are, and it's individual for each one of us. But I think that each situation, while it doesn't define us, it can definitely help us to become better.
I love that response, and you're right. That goes into a woman's fortitude and her resilience. You know what I mean? To be able to
Yes.
overcome certain trials or obstacles that she may face. I can attest to that. So, so is there anyone else that has someone of a different scenario or opinion? Sherelle, I'm gonna pull you up. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Oh, you picking on me? All right. But listen, I've been through so many bumps and bruises and some successes and some joy, so I can speak on that. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on the platform with these awesome women. It's my pleasure, and I'm grateful. I think for me, I had to learn to show up
Mm,
in my authentic skin and know that that was totally okay. And that's harder than what it sounds because,
mm,
like she said, you constantly growing and developing. But to be authentic and true in that moment, in that time, no matter what's going on and who's listening, and not being a people pleaser. I was a people pleaser.
yes.
Being a fatherless daughter, I was a people pleaser for a long time. And I
Mhm.
just found my dad through ancestry with one of my line sisters that helped me a lot. That helped me feel whole, if you will, because that was a
Mhm.
piece of me. And so to show up as your authentic self, just like you are, and be naked and not ashamed, is amazing. It's powerful. And that's what I'm walking in. I'm toddling in like a 2-year old. You're not on daycares. So I'm toddling like a 2-year old in that skin now. And it's just amazing. And being, my children just left out the house from college. And so I'm enjoying myself. But it's always a journey. It's
Yeah.
every day, every moment for me is finding me and liking me, who I am, good, bad, and ugly, if you will. So
Look here, I can definitely relate to that. I had to look at myself in the mirror a couple of times, and there have been many of those moments that I didn't like what I saw, you know. And it's good now that even though I know, well, I don't know if most of you know, but I'm sure you do because we all cool. But me going through my cancer journey, it really drug up a lot of unresolved issues that I had in my womanhood, in my walk, and it made me even reevaluate who I was as a woman. So I had to go through a really deep healing journey to even get to the halfway point. You know, I feel like now I'm at the halfway point. I'm not all the way there, but I'm at the halfway point. And I love it though. Like I love it. And with being authentic about yourself and walking in your truth as a woman, it gives you a certain type of freedom that you don't have when you still living in a certain type of box. I feel like being a
yeah,
people pleaser kept me in a box and it kept me stifled. You know, so now it's just I'm coming out of the shell. I'm coming out of my comfort zone. I'm doing things now that I probably would have never thought I would do 15 years ago. You
right.
know, but I'm loving it though. I'm loving it. I'm loving the excitement that comes with it. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, Miss Liz, come on with your beautiful self. Let me hear what you got to say.
Take myself off mute. When I originally saw the title, I kind of laughed to myself and thought about the nursery rhyme, right? What a little girl's made of, sugar and spice and all things nice, right? Um, but when we think about what we're made of as women today, it can be affected by so many things
Mm-hmm.
because we all come from so many different experiences. So the measurement of what is good to me, the measurement of what is good to you, the measurement of what is good to the men we associate with, right? And the society that sees us is also very different. So when I think about what would help us to be great, right, would be the ability to always be able to live in a pause. And let me explain what I mean by that. We have a tendency to be perceived as women as emotional and reactive, right? But if we as women were able to take the power back and take the pause, so before we blah, we think because we're very intelligent. And if you were to look at our minds as women, we have an ability to do so much more in many cases than men can do just because we're wired that way. And if we were to take our ability of intelligence, it would allow us to really think about, okay, in this moment, how do I want to posture myself? Not how do you want to posture me? Not how am I going to react to you, but how am I choosing to posture myself? And making that conscious decision in that pause to say, okay, this is how I'm going to posture myself. And now I'm going to look at my perception and clarify it, because a lot of times when we're perceiving something, we're perceiving it from emotions, we're perceiving it from pain, we're perceiving it from opinions. But what is it really? What are the facts that are actually here? If we give ourselves an ability to just pause, even if it's like a count of 5, and then we have a response, we're going to end up being the women we truly want to be. Because now I am presenting you who I choose to be, not who you're triggering. And I think that's where we've got to get to as women, is not to be presented as the triggers of everybody else's emotions, but who do you choose to be in this moment, and getting good at being who we choose to be, because then we'll have the actual outcomes that we want. And it will mean we won't have to say sorry so much.
Now, I love how you said that. And at the same time, I think, though, that comes with a level of maturity, even within the woman herself. Because a lot of times when you have constantly been in situations that may be unhealthy, could be toxic, and this doesn't necessarily mean in a relationship. It could be just environmental things. It could be your environment. It could be your family. It could be other relationships that you have. But when you find yourself consistently in this cycle, sometimes it's hard for you to break that cycle, or to even know how to break that cycle. And it takes a level of maturity to say to yourself, I deserve better. But if you don't believe in yourself, you can't even get to that point. You know what I mean?
This whole thing on self-love, when you look at the number one topic that's searched on the internet, is actually self-love.
Mm-hmm,
Right? There are so many people trying to figure out, how do I love me? Because if nobody's ever taught you love, you have no idea what that even should look like, right? Everybody just got a view of it. But I think this fabulous thing we have the ability to do as humans, whether we're male or female, is to inspect and adapt. And if we get better at not judging ourselves, because there's days I'm going to be like, not the person I'm really choosing to be, but I can take that moment and say it was still part of this journey to this better me. And every day we have to inspect and adapt, and we have to give people the room to do that. So the people we can influence, young women, young girls, teenagers, little girls, when they're having moments, let them know it's okay to have a moment, honey. It's okay to have that moment, but stop for a second and think about, how would you like to feel instead? And give them that space, because it's not an overnight thing to create the women we want to have in our communities and in our world. It's not necessarily starting with women who are as old as we are, right? It's starting with the generations behind us and the grandchildren that we can influence. And that's where we're going to be able to really affect change, because they haven't been molded yet. We're trying to remold something that's old. It's not that it's impossible, but it can take longer, because you need somebody to acquiesce to doing that. A little child is always open. So I think we really have to reach back to begin to change what tomorrow's going to look like.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Dr. T, what's your perspective here, ma'am?
Good evening, beautiful ladies. Good evening. Good evening. I am honored to be on here, Shawan. I thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback off of the beautiful young lady that was right before me. It's a couple of things I do want to say. Your question was, what makes a good woman? And I think that's subjective based on, the answer to that is subjective based on where you catch me, what season you caught me in. When I was a lot younger, I thought, a good woman was this. And then life teaches you some things and you mature a little bit. And then, okay, now I think a good woman is this, right? And so for me, I believe a good woman, for me to feel like I'm a good woman, or believe that I'm a good woman, I think it's very important that I am open and not judgmental. There was a season in my life I was real churchy. And if it wasn't this way, and this way, it was an issue, right? But that was religion, that was institution, that was And then maturing, I would say that maturing a little bit more, I understand that I am ever evolving. And being a good woman is being open, however, being having boundaries and being firm on those boundaries and choosing to be who I choose to be during this time. And as we were just talking about, she was just talking about the young women. I think it's so important uh, in light of where we see ourselves in society as women, right? There's so many things being from I can't say a motherless or fatherless home, but being raised in a very dysfunctional home, and being put out at 12 and taking care of myself since I was 12, not having the nurturing from the maternal side or the paternal side, and having to just learn stuff on my own. The unfortunate thing for the next generation is that generation, what am I, Generation X? I'm Gen X. Being Gen X, right? And looking at the millennials and Gen Z, the problem is I've seen so many of my generation passing judgment on the younger ladies because we're still dealing with our trauma and haven't healed our trauma, because it's time for us to be that tightest woman. The Bible, scripture speaks about the tightest woman. The tightest woman is the mature woman, Gen X, to be able to should be pouring into and teaching the younger generation. The issue is we're still unpacking our trauma, right? And so you can only teach what you know. You can't take a young lady to a place that you've never been. And so for me, being a good woman in this season is unpacking that trauma, dealing with that trauma, so that I can encourage the next generation, instead of judging her for dressing a certain way or listening to a certain thing or making certain choices, but living a life in a way that I'm an example to her. And in my example to her, I can teach her how to love herself so that she can get to a place where she identifies what a good woman is. And so that's who a good woman is, what a good woman is to me in that season, to be an example for the next. Get the rest of this baggage off of, unpack the rest of this baggage so that I can help the next generation instead of pointing the finger, because a lot of them are generation, the millennials, the Z's and all the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, all these different, I know as Generation X, I bled on the next generation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay.
Ma'am.
I bled on the next generation. I have to accept responsibility for that. Yep. And not only accept responsibility, ask for forgiveness and give them grace and ask them for grace, but do the work that's necessary so that they don't find themselves when they get to our age not knowing anything, because we did not want to face the trauma and unpack that stuff, heal, so that we can now direct them in the right direction. So that's my seat. That's where I'm at in this season of what is a good woman, being an example to the next.
Look here, Dr. T, you was telling my story right there. You was telling my story, and and that is so true. And because I'm a part of Gen X too, I just feel like I don't know what it is about this generation, but I think we've had the most traumatic stuff to happen in this generation. We are the products of children where families were broken. So it's like now we're at an age where we're having to try to redefine who we are and rebrand ourselves, because we grew up believing one thing and now we're realizing those things don't apply, or they don't exist, or they never did. I know for me personally, I felt like so many times I believed certain things that were projected on me from other people. These were other people's thoughts. Oh, well, you can't be good at this because it didn't work for them. Or you can't do this because it didn't work for them. Or you're not going to find a good man because it didn't work for them. You know what I mean? So I had to now come to this place where it's like, wait a minute, I can't believe that. That's your experience. That's not mine. You know what I mean? But I feel like, again, because of, the different parallels as far as some of us not having adequate mothers, or some of us not having adequate fathers in the home, we've had to kind of learn life on our own. and on our own terms. And it's unfortunate that it took me 40 some years to get the right lesson, but I'm glad that I did. And it's like even now, I too have to go back and apologize to my daughters, for the things that I did during those seasons, and to give them the tools that they need so that they can be better women and not emulate some of the things that they saw me do. And it's really challenging sometimes because you have to be open enough to admit, where you were short or where you fell short. So to even be able to walk in that accountability at this point in my age, it just lets me know, look, I got to do what I got to do. And because I messed up, I got to own up to it. I have to make sure that my girls or anyone else's daughter at that age learn something from me so that when I do leave this world, they can say, you know what, my mom did this. She showed me this. Although she was like this at one time, but she redeemed herself and I'm proud of her. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you saying that. That just hit home for me. Next up, we are going to have Miss Sonia. Miss Sonia, I'm the newlywed. I would love to get your take. And congratulations again, Miss Cartwright.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for just extending the invitation for your platform. I'm just looking forward to this conversation. And I guess the young lady before me, it was a perfect, I think, segue into what I was thinking. She talked about traumas and our personal traumas, and I think that I too am a Gen Xer. But I think that we're a generation of women who are taking our lives back and we're taking those personal and generational traumas and we're turning them around, where so many of us are doing our work, right? The necessary work that we need so that we can be better women, so that we can show up as our authentic selves. Because I think a lot of times we lose ourselves and we don't know who we are. We think that we may be one person, but we truly don't know a lot of times who we are because we've been told who we are or who we should be. And I think that what makes a good woman is a woman who has self-control, and that can communicate her feelings and not only understands the needs of others, but also her own needs, and is not afraid to express what she needs at any given time. And like I said, just taking that time to work on herself and understanding that I do need to do this. I need some time for me, whether that means taking yourself off of the market to date or whatever that might look like for you. But just saying, you know what? I need some time for me. I need to work on myself, and not to be ashamed of that, because it's nothing to be ashamed of. But that's how we are able, I think, to show up as our authentic selves and the best version of ourselves, when we are able to truly learn who we are as a woman, as an individual, as a human, and as whatever your name is, right? So to me, that's what makes a good woman, and I don't think it's about what somebody else thinks that you are, but who you think that you are.
Well, you know what? I love that you said that as well, because it does. And I'm trying to put that in a personal way as well, because you're right. It doesn't really matter what someone else thinks about you, but how you view yourself. But to kind of tie in and piggyback to a lot of the things that have already been stated, again, when you have suffered from certain traumas and you're still trying to work through those traumas, you don't always believe that you are a good person, or that you've gone, you know what I mean? Like certain situations can put you in a place where you look down on yourself. You don't put that value into yourself anymore. So and that leads to people pleasing. You know what I mean? That leads to having to now unpack all of this baggage. I tell everybody, when Erykah Badu came up with that song Bag Lady, I was like, she made that about me. Because
Right.
that was my song. That was how I lived. I was still carrying stuff from years and years. And it's like I've just recently unpacked some things that I have been carrying for 20 plus years. I realized that in essence, that's really what made me sick. The toxicity, the unforgiveness, the resentment, the anger, the bitterness, all of that stuff built up into my body and caused this disease. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn how to release a lot of that stuff and own up to it. I had to face it. I had to write about it. I had to talk about it. I had to get it off me, and I'm glad that I did, but it was a painful experience because I really had to look at myself in ways that I didn't want to look at myself. I had to look at, excuse my language, but I had to look at how I fucked up as a parent. You know what I mean? How I dropped the ball on my kids at some times in my life. I had to look at the fact of how I allowed different people to come into my life and infiltrate how I was as a woman or as a parent. I had to look at, how I would put other people before myself. You know what I mean? And not put that same energy into me. So I had to really face a lot. You know what I'm saying? To get to this place. And like I said, I'm at the halfway point, because I still have some growing to do. But at the same time, it's like I value even going through that. I feel like that was the work that I needed to do in order to be in a place now where I can help somebody else. I can pull somebody else out of the darkness now because I've been through it and I've walked it. You know what I mean? So thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much for that. Next up, I'm going to have Rosie, if you don't mind. I would love to get your standpoint as well.
Hello, ladies, and my name is Rosalind Amaka. Thank you for having me on your platform.
Thank you.
So many of you ladies said so many valid points, but if I can piggyback and add anything to this conversation, it would be a matter of forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to be loved. Because as Black women, we go through so much, and it's very common to hear the word strong Black woman. However, we're not always strong all the time. And so if we allow that space and allow us to forgive ourselves, and in a way, when people say, how do I do that? Sometimes we need to disconnect from society and the simulation that we live in. Because I can say within media and entertainment, people spend a lot of money to distract you and to make you feel bad about yourself, to not feel good enough, to never feel good enough. And so sometimes taking that moment away from the digital world and I know it's hot outside, but just going outside and just being connected with God and nature, and to just practice stillness and listen. Like if you can't do anything else, like that's the one thing, if I can recommend to somebody that's listening, if you are in a crazy household with chaos, or you don't know where to go, try to literally distance yourself, break away, and have that moment and try to just pray. And even though you feel like maybe God's not listening, he's there.
All the time. All the time. That's some good word right there, because I've had to do that myself. So I can totally attest to that. And it is so much helpful when you can actually center yourself and find that peace within. It allows you to be able to move even in chaotic situations and not be phased. So it is definitely a blessing to be able to, again, find that center, find that place of peace, so that you are not swept up by the chaos or the drama or whatever it is that's going on around you. That's really, really good.
And if I can say just one more thing that I'm just thinking of, sometimes when people are not really sure, how do I love myself? It's almost like you have a best friend or a friend that's next to you, and someone's not really treating them nice or talking to them nice. And you're like, why would you let somebody talk to you that way? We have to do the same thing with ourselves. And sometimes we're in the motion of our every single day, environment, and we may not know that someone is either speaking life into us or the exact opposite. So being able to recognize the two and taking yourself out of those situations and slowly distancing yourself away from those people that are not helping you when it comes down to self-love. We are vessels.
Definitely, definitely. Love it. Love it. Next up, I am going to have Miss CC. Go ahead and let me get your input as well, madam.
Hello, ladies. Once again, Shawan, thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I think a lot of things that we didn't say, I love everything that the lady said, but what I think a good woman is just embodying the qualities of just being kind, being compassionate, having integrity, along with being resilient. For 27 years, I was married, and it felt like my cup was always empty because I was just pouring it into my kids and my husband. All I did was give kindness, and I never received it back, right? So it's like what Rosalind said, if someone is not kind to you, you have to speak up and say, hey, this is not right, this doesn't feel good to me. So I think those things, when you have that self-worth of yourself, it lets people know, look, she is a good person, but she is not going to allow me to walk over her. She's going to, you can tell that she loves herself. You can tell that she just embodies all the qualities that she wants to receive from other people. And if others can't reciprocate what you're given, then you have to remove yourself away from them and just not deal with them, period. So that's my definition of what a good woman is.
I agree with that as well. That kind of ties into what Dr. T was saying about having boundaries. Because when you are in a healthy space, you can actually create that foundation for yourself so that other people will know, hey, I can't do that with her because she has a certain standard for herself. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you saying that because that's definitely something I would say a healed woman would appreciate. When you're wilding out, you don't have a clue as to what a boundary is. You don't respect a boundary. You know what I mean? You don't respect a boundary. So it's like when you get to that level of maturity where you understand how important that is for you to even have peace within yourself, to love yourself enough where you don't allow certain people to treat you any kind of way, then it changes the whole game. You know what I mean? But again, it takes a healed individual or someone working towards their healing to even be able to appreciate that. But next up, I would love to have Miss Tosh. I would love for you to expound your experience on this comment or this question as well, ma'am.
Hey, ladies. Thank you so much, Shawan. Everybody had good points on being a good woman. And one of the ones I want to piggyback on is Dr. T and what CC just said. Self-love is just an important thing that we need for ourselves, to forgive ourselves, like Miss Rosalind said. Forgive us because myself, I was molested by a family member when I was young. So in that term, forgiving myself because that was not my fault. Understand what I'm saying? So self-love, setting boundaries, and then growth, the maturity that we have, that we come along with as we grow, because I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We evolve each year when we move forward. And if we can forgive ourselves and love ourselves, self-love, it really changes the inevitable. It really does. So I had jotted a few things down, but I done lost my my friend was trying to get on and I done lost my notes. So really, being a good woman, we all are good women. We can't change. We women, we born good women. And like we said, with what we're taught the things. And when I got older and I was taught these things, I own my garden. So the things that I learned that I didn't like, I pick those roots out, take those out, and blossom with new ones. So we do things for ourselves. And once we start to grow and evolve, that garden becomes a rosebud, right? So, like I say, self-love, growth, maturity, and confidence. I'm confident in me. Yes, that happened to me, but that's not who I am. That doesn't define who I am today. So being confident in who you are, and like Miss Elizabeth said, stop being a people pleaser. Or I think Sherelle said that. People pleasing, I don't give a F what people say about me. I do what I do because it's my purpose. It's my God-given talent. Because just like Miss Kim, she's a relationship coach, and Miss Henson is a marriage coach. We have different things. We can teach different things, and you might get it like the same version, but we each are different individuals, so we each teach different. So I don't care what people say about me. I've learned that, and I'm with that. I'm confident in me. That's all I got.
No,
But
that was
I just
really
have to
good.
say,
That was really good. And you're right. It really boils down to loving yourself, how you view yourself. And again, this is why I wanted to do this show, because there are so many women, whether they're Gen X or whatever their age range is, there is a lack or a disconnect when it comes to really valuing who you are and being true to who you are and walking in your authenticity. Sometimes we may run across or come across different scenarios or situations in our lives where we may not have met the mark, but now you're putting yourself in a position where you are now downgrading yourself because you didn't meet that level of standard, or you're comparing yourself to someone else. I just had a conversation earlier today with Cece about that. Sometimes I even find myself comparing myself to other people. Oh, well, they did this way. I should have did mine that way. No, I don't have to, because I am who I am. So however I show up, as long as I'm giving my best and I'm putting my best foot forward, that's all that matters. I don't have to be like Dr. T, you know what I'm saying? Or I don't have to be like Kim Love in order to be effective in who I am and in my womanhood. So again, that's something that I feel like a lot of us women do not pay attention to, so to speak, because again, it could have a lot to do with social media, society's viewpoint of what women should look like, how they should interact with people, and things of that nature, that now we're basing, all of these different things into who we are supposed to be. But all you can be is you. You ain't got to be like everybody else. You don't have to contend with the world in order to be effective. So,
I
thank you.
just had one more thing, if you know that. And that being confident in who I am helped me to write my journal, falling back in love with myself, finding my way back to me, because I had to do the intense effort, put the effort in, put the work in, and get to know myself. So it really and truly helped when you journal. If anybody needs some help, journaling helps a lot.
It does. And thank you for that. And what I'm going to do too, because it's so many of us that are authors and we do other things. I want to get all of your links, because I want to put that into the YouTube page, information, so that people can reach out to you and support you even after the show. I feel like that's important. We each have our own set of knowledge and our own set of experiences that can help and bless other people as well. So, with that being said, I want to bring Maria. Maria, I would love to get your point as well on this question.
Blessings to all of you women. And shout out to my husband. I know he's watching. Love you, babe. So I just wanted to, the first thing I thought of, yeah, shout out, babe. When I thought about the word good, right? The word good, I had to go through to the genesis of it, literally, right? Because when God said, I made this, I made that, and it was good. I made this, I made that, and it was good, right? And so I had to go back to the beginning. And so when it's Tove, right? And that encompasses beauty, it's life-giving qualities, it's moral goodness, it is harmony with God. So how
Uh-oh. Okay, she will be back on, ladies, hopefully. Oh, she was getting into the groove. I'm telling you, the enemy ain't like that response. He did not like that. Okay, well, we're gonna wait for her to come back, but in the meantime, I want to touch on a few things as well because, like I said, these responses has brought up a lot. Here she go. Hold on. Come on up, Maria.
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. We have a rainstorm going on here. Okay, so we have a storm going on here, so forgive my all of the things happening. But how can I define what is good at all until I get what God's view is? How do I even know what good is without, and if he's the one who calls me good, if I'm not in harmony with him, how do I even have any sense of balance, anything to gauge what is good? And I think that's one of the problems with the world today. Everybody has their own definition of words. When if we go to what we've been created to be, if I go to God and I say, who am I, what is good to you, then that's the marker. That's how I gauge my life. That is how I can say, Lord, if I don't know you, I don't know what is, I don't know who is good. I don't have anything to show me what is good. And so for me, my marker is God. My marker is he is good, and he said that I am good. And because of that, I have to live in harmony. I have to live with a sense of beauty. I have to live with a sense of honor. I have to live with a sense of respect. I have to live under his under what he says is good. And so that is how I gauge what is good. And so it's wonderful to have different experiences. But for me, if I am not rooted in Christ, I don't know what good is. I don't even know how to be good at all if I'm not rooted in him.
And I'm glad you said that as well. I mean, having a spiritual connection and a relationship with God really does help to bring forth the healing in which you need, right? And again, a lot of women are not, I don't want to put it, that's a whole other topic. I'm going to just say this, but I'm going to put it out there, right? It's a lot of women that I know, and I used to be one, right? You go to church and you learn all of this word, but you don't apply none of it. You go on a Sunday and you getting the spirit, and you feeling great, and you hearing this message, and then by Monday, that thing done died off and you back to where you were, right? So it comes again to a place where you are not just mature, but you are at a level in which you really do want better for you, right? Some people don't know where that line of good really is. And yes, if you start at the beginning, God created everything good and well and within his likeness. But a lot of people have still not attributed to the fact that we already have God within us, like that ability, that innate power. It is within each and every one of us, and people still haven't tapped into it. People are still allowing situations in their lives to dictate where they move, how they talk, their being, all of these different things. So, like I said, that's a whole other topic. We might have to get into that, in this session. But I don't want to
definitely a topic I would like to for us to step into.
Yes.
So I'll be waiting for that. Because personal relationship, being married to a bishop that's been a senior pastor for 30 years. Church is a whole nother topic, okay?
It is.
Church, very sensitive. And then it's personal relationship. Okay.
Yeah, it is. There are so many people who have sadly been traumatized by church. And it's not that God traumatized them. It was the humans in the church who had their own trauma
Exactly.
that has never been healed that spread on everybody.
Yeah.
But it's made it now not necessarily a place that some people consider safe. So where you had years ago where people would send children to Sunday school, if you know, given the age of that most people have said they are, right? There was the time when children were sent to Sunday school, there'd be buses that would go pick up these children from around the neighborhoods and bring them to church. Today, who, as a parent, would trust their child to go to an environment like that?
That's true.
So there's so much work that we have got to do to bring God back to the church and let it be that the God presented to the people, and work on the people being in the background. But until we're willing to do that type of work, we're not going to be able to present what we think we should be presenting about God. So that means it comes to us now who have the relationships to be that living epistle and demonstrate the love of God, that people read it on us and they see it on us without having to be in a place that's unsafe. We have got to be the first connection of love that people can see, so they can see the God in us and say, oh, if that's God, I like that. I want to know more about what I'm seeing here versus the religion and all the rest of it.
Correct. And you're so right. You know, if you think about, and I know I'm getting a little off topic, but I just got to say it. You know, the thing of it is, you know, if you think about the structure of what church was at one time, it was considered the refuge. It was a place that people that were broken could go to be healed. If you needed directions, if you needed deliverance, if you just needed to find peace in your life, it was a safe haven for people. It was like the hospital. You go to the doctor to get treated, right? But now church itself has become a business. It is no longer about servitude. It is about how much money you're going to put in the plate, right? So I think a lot of it has been lost. Now, yes, there are some people that still operate in servitude. They are compassion, they are loving, you know, they want to see other people be successful, they want to pray for you. But now I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want nobody laying hands on me or saying you praying for me, because I don't know if you are praying P-R-A-Y or you are P-R-E-Y on me, right? So I am really cautious now, even when I step into those realms, because of the fact that, yeah, I've been hurt by church, but I have seen the corruption from the inside out, and it is not a pleasant sight. You know what I'm saying? And what people don't recognize sitting in the audience, I done seen behind the scenes. So it's like I now have, you know what I'm saying, that experience from both ends, and it's just not what it used to be. It's just not what it used to be at all. So I'm a advocate for relationship. Get to know God for yourself. Don't go to a church listening to someone else's interpretation of what they presume God is, or how God should be, or how God moves in your life. You got to know this for yourself, and then apply it so that other people will see the God in you. You know, you don't have to go around Bible thumping. You ain't got to go around, you know, overly persuading people to believe what you believe. When you walk in who you are and the authenticity of knowing that God is with you no matter what, that light, that aura is gonna be shown throughout. You know what I mean? You don't have to speak that. You don't have to project that. It's already there. People are gonna see it as soon as you walk in the room. It's gonna speak for you. You know what I'm saying?
Your everyday actions, right?
Exactly. You know what I mean? So yeah, we definitely got to get into that. You know?
Scripture says, study to show thyself approved. And I think we've gotten so far away from being in a place of studying the word for ourselves that people can tell us anything and we take that as the gospel.
Correct.
Right? Because I believe the Bible is a mirror. All right. When I believe that when you open up the Bible and you begin to seek the face of the Holy Spirit, he will reveal himself to you specifically. I can take a scripture and interpret it one way, have a revelation of it one way for the season that I am in my life, but you may interpret that same scripture in a different way for the season that you have in your life. So I'm an advocate. And when my husband and I, we're still newlyweds, I guess you can say. So I used to ask my husband all the time, "You sure God told you to marry me?" Listen, I was in senior ministry as well, but he had been a pastor for decades. But I believe in a personal relationship, and in order to have a personal relationship outside of church, we have to be first in Bible teaching churches that the leadership releases us and first and foremost teaches us, and then releases us to learn scripture on our own, learn the Bible, study to show thyself approved, because we should not be making any man or woman an idol. Therefore, that's why I believe we feel I've been hurt in ministry, and as a parishioner and as senior leadership, right? As you said, being behind the veil. But when you are in a Bible teaching ministry, when you're in a Bible teaching church, and your leaders are teaching you the word of God and ushering you into a position to study the word for yourself, then you're quick to understand that it's not God that hurt me. It's not God that's out of order. It's people that's out of order. It's people that miss the mark. And so I think in this season, for a very long time, we've been in a season of idolatry, pretty much. We put men and women of God on pedestals. And then when they showed us who they were, which was human, right? Now, oh my God, the church is this, the church is that. No, the church is not. You understand what I'm saying? But as I said, that's my street with relationship and church. So I would digress and put myself on mute, because
for me,
relationship is what matters.
Exactly.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, relationship is what matters. I just want to say one thing. Dr. Tanya had said regarding scripture and being in a different season, and there being in a different interpretation. I think that the word of God, there's only one truth. Now you can receive it and use it, apply it in different ways in different seasons. Because you can read the same scripture and not get the same thing from it. Like, wow, I've read this before, but it's hitting me different in this season that I'm in. I would say that there's only one truth to the text, but you can apply it in different ways in different seasons. So the interpretation of the text only has one truth. So I just wanted to say that only because people who are viewing, I don't want anybody thinking, oh, you can take one text and it can mean 17 different things. There's only one truth to a text, one. And so, right. So no, I know that that's not what you meant. So I just wanted to share that, so people don't think you can read whatever and it means whatever, depending on the time that you read it. It may hit you differently. And it be real strong at one time versus another time. But man, listen, this personal relationship is vital for all of us, especially to be good in any context of the word good.
Yeah.
And to your points, Sister Shawan, so now I love you, right? So
yes, ma'am.
We talk about personal relationship, but we have to hold people accountable. So if you don't have community, right? So for you in your life, you can curse and you can say whatever you want to say and say that you're a godly woman, right? And I'm not saying that you're not, but what I'm saying for me is I the word says, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. So I am not, because I know scripture and I have a relationship with God, I'm not going to allow the unwholesome talk to come out of my mouth, because he said that I am good. Because my version of what the text says, what he's saying for me to do is I can't live by that. I can't allow myself to just say whatever I want to say, because the Holy Spirit is holding me accountable in my relationship. So that's why we need community. That's why we need teachers. That's why there's the fivefold, the apostles, the prophets, the pastors, the evangelists and the teachers, so we can learn. And to the doctor's point again, is we need more churches that teach the word of God, and that actually have people who hold you accountable and don't throw you away when you fall, because we're all going to fall. You know, we're going to have bad times. We need people to love us back into wholeness, love us back into holiness. And people are so quick, especially women, we throw people away so quickly. Love them back into relationship with God. We have to love people back into relationship.
That makes a good point, and that goes into the next question that I had, as far as what areas do women really need to work on. And I was talking about this earlier with Cece. A lot of times, as women, and to kind of piggyback again on what you were saying, Maria, for us to even have this gathering, right? This sisterhood gathering that we have. You know, these are women that have never met each other. We are all coming together and we're having great dialogue and great conversation, right? But there are times that even when women come together, we may smile in your face, but really we don't care for you in that way. You know what I mean? There's a level of compassion that we don't have sometimes for the sister beside us. It could be because she may be, you know, a little disheveled, or her life may not seem adequate to our standards or how we live life or how we do things. So we kind of, you know, knock her to the side, or we'll say something to the effect of, oh, well, I don't want to deal with her because she's too ghetto, or I don't want to deal with her because she's this or she's that, because it doesn't level up to where we are. But as women, I feel like even in this space, it is important for us to be able to help the next woman. You know what I mean? Whether it's through your deeds, whether it's through your compassion, whether it's through your servitude to others or to a community environment. It is important, because how can we expect not just the sisters our age, but even our daughters or our nieces or anyone else to be able to understand the goodness of a woman and the goodness of walking in her womanhood authentically if we don't show it to them? I just feel like that's something that is lost a lot of times with us. And I'm not saying everyone here does that, but unfortunately, when it comes to categorizing anything, whether if we're talking about women or if we're talking about men, you will take a few bad apples and make that the entire scenario for everybody. So unfortunately, even as us women, we will do the same thing. You know, men will look at us and say, oh, well, it's these type of women I don't like. I don't like gold diggers, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. But they will make the comment as if every woman is like that. Every woman is not. That may just be what you've experienced with the women that you've met, but that is not every woman. You know, just like even as us women, we may have bad relationships or, bad connections with people. And we'll go back and be like, oh, well, this dude wasn't this and he didn't treat me right or he didn't do that. All men are dogs. No, they're not. We just haven't met the right one. You know what I mean? Those were the experiences that we've had. But again, we will find ourselves sometimes generalizing as if all that is the totality of all. So I wanted to get kind of like your feedback as well on some areas that you've noticed as women in general, where you've seen the lack or different areas in which we can grow in. I mean, I can go in deep about some of my own personal things, because I have, like I said, I have really had to take accountability for myself in the different areas within my life to not only appreciate me, but to even appreciate the different men that may come into my life, how I respond to them, not allowing certain triggers to trigger me, You know what I mean? How to be able to communicate effectively so that I could still say how I feel, but not come off in a way where I'm being disruptive or abusive or, disrupting their peace in any kind of way. My thing is, in a nutshell, I don't want a man to even come into my life and disrupt my peace. So why would I do that to somebody else? I had to learn that the same thing that I want, I also had to give. And I feel like a lot of times as women, we don't do that. So let's I'm gonna start with you, Rael. Go ahead.
You talk me?
Yes.
Oh, you used the nickname, girl. I didn't know it was going. Okay. I'm glad you started me because I'm gonna have to exit these wonderful women because I have another obligation, unfortunately. But for me, people is gonna people be peopling. And so I never really just to kind of I loved everything the woman said earlier. To piggyback on some of that gracefully is just like the church. I never put my faith in just man alone. What the verse of the Bible is, let God be true, every man be a lie, or whatever. And I'm not quoting it correctly, but the gist of is that's just the truth. So when we talk about improving ourselves, or for me, speaking for myself, I think to the point that, and I can't think of her, I can barely see my screen because I'm using my cell phone. But what she said before, the awesome lady that spoke after me that talked about taking the pause. For me, to generalize anything is just abusive because nobody, every one group of people is not everything that you're saying. It's kind of abusive, and I said it to men when you meet them and you're dating in your 50s, and they say, "Well, y'all be." Oh, y'all be. I was like, wait a minute, Paul. I don't know who y'all is. I'm sorry. And I correct them in that space, me being authentic me. Normally I'd be like, oh, he just, in my 20s, he just, oh, he need hit. Well, it's not my job to heal him. But saying that emotions, so taking that pause and not being that emotional person God made me to be for special circumstances like my children. Or when I used to do social work, Shawan, I was your family community worker, and that's how we first met. I authentically have that gift of wanting to build.
Yeah.
And at first, I didn't know why I was a teenage mom. I knew it was reasons I chose and why my life was like it was. But it afforded me the right to have experiences that I can say, I know how you feel. I can truly say I empathize with you. I can sympathize, but that'll be in a bad spot. That'll be in a sad spot. Let's move to empathy and let's build from this place of this strong foundation that you learned something. And let's do it together. And I like the idea of building women. And so for me, my growth space would have been, and still is as we continue to grow and become, that emotional part that God put in me that is kind of tender, and I give it to people that are not worthy. And so setting those boundaries and things like that has been so freeing, even with my kids. I mean, my son knows how to just go in on it. And I just love him to death. Oh my God. Love him to life, love him to life. But that being said, I've still in his 20s, I'm setting those boundaries. And I noticed that he loved me more and respect that because people want to grow and go up and incline. And so doing that, you're doing something for yourself, but also people, as someone said before, respect it more. And you can grow people in yourself in that space because it's a great space to be. It feel kind of wonky at first, you're toddling, but it's amazing to be there. It's joy, it's peace, it's harmony, it's love, it's guidance from the universe, from God, or whoever you get your direction from. And it's just great. So I wanted to say that, and I want to do an exit stage left. I have to go, but it's been amazing to being a part of this village, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful.
Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We will see you next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Bye, ladies.
All right. Good night. Next up, I am going to have Miss Sonia. I would love to hear your stance on this as well, ma'am.
Well, so can you give me the question one more time?
Yes, the question. No problem. The question is, what is it that you think that women are lacking, or that women need to, reevaluate about themselves or about other women?
you were talking about us passing judgment, or some women passing judgment on one another. And I know I hear a lot of women do that, or talking about another woman. I remember some years ago, a friend of mine, we used to hang out like all day. We were both entrepreneurs and just kind of out, out every day doing our entrepreneurial thing. And we made a pact with one another. And instead of saying something negative about another woman, we said, okay, if we see someone, we're going to choose something about that woman, whether it be their earrings, their shoes, their hair, something to uplift versus tearing down, right? And I think that we do that a lot. We'll say, oh, well, why is she wearing that? Or that doesn't look good on her. Or, just certain things that we say to tear another woman down. And they might not even know that we're saying it, right? But we know that we're saying it, and it's not anything positive. Right. Whatever the reason is, whether it's because you're jealous of them or because you think that they are not living up to your standard, or they're not doing something that you think that they should be doing. But who are we to tell someone what we think? Right? That's not our place. I think that we as women and as Black women, we have been torn down so much. We have a history of being torn down that at some point we have to say, I am my sister's keeper. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It is my responsibility to make sure that my fellow woman, my fellow sister knows that she's loved, whether that's to say a kind word to her, a smile, something, because you never know the type of day that someone is having. It might be you that can turn their whole trajectory of life around. Very much so. And I think that we as women should take that stance to say, yes, I am my sister keeper. It's not our responsibility to make sure anyone has joy or happiness, but it is our responsibility to make sure that we don't bring misery to someone and further disdain to whatever they may be going through. So I just think that we carry a certain responsibility, and when we get our healing or the help that we may need, I think that we should reach back and make sure that someone else gets theirs. Right. I agree. Whether that's to share a resource or something, if we see someone going through something, to say, hey, this is something that worked for me, I'm just going to pass it along to share it with you. Whether or not they choose to use it, that's on them. But at least we can do that. Yeah, just to pass along the blessing to someone else. I agree. And I'm glad you said that, because I'm just going to make a personal confession. I've been doing it all night, but I'm going to make a personal confession here. I personally am still struggling in that area. And I'm just going to keep it honest with you. I have a biological sister that I haven't talked to in years. We have, it's years of like pain and hurt there, right? And I know, because I'm the oldest, I know that there's still a certain level of responsibility that I should take on in making sure that my sister is well and things of that nature. But it's almost like sometimes when people have burned you so much, do you really want to open that door back up? Do you really want to open up that Pandora's box again? And my thing is, yes, I love her. I do. I would never want to see anything happen to her, her children, or anything. If there was any way that I could assist her, she would never know it came from me. I would do it anonymously. You know what I mean? But as far as even opening that door or having that relationship, I don't know if I can do that anymore. I don't know. And I'm just being blatantly honest. I don't know if I can put myself in that position to be triggered again. And I say that with all honesty. Like,
that to me, I can sit here all day and talk about how we as women, or how myself as a woman, can go out here and I can help another woman. But how effective am I as an individual to say that I can go out here and randomly help another woman out here that I don't even know, and I can't even help my own blood sister?
I think we
That,
have. I think there's this. That's that
Right.
grace. That's that grace drink that you have to give yourself.
mhm,
Right. Let me just give myself some grace in this, because where I am in my journey at this point, it's not her that I can help, but at this
mhm,
point of the journey, I can help her.
mhm, mhm,
Help this person at this point of the journey, right? And it may take me a little bit longer to get to the point in my journey where I'm okay to be helping somebody I love, even though I know there's going to be like this, so you're going to have to go, oh my God, it's too tiring to do all of that. But I remember I spent many years, I have one sister, so I don't have the luxury of having a lot. And I know for many years we were extremely ostracized because our personalities are literally diametrically opposed.
mhm, mhm,
Right. And my sister was always going to talk about exactly how she felt in that moment at that time. There was no pause, there was no consideration. Whatever she said was what she said. And at that, I remember a season of my life in my 30s picking my sister up off the floor and pinning her to a wall with one hand. Right. And people go, oh my God, Lizzie, you do something like, oh my God, yes, I did. I wanted to kill that
yeah,
girl. Right.
been
That's exactly how I felt.
there.
But I remembered as I grew, right, and started to evolve and understand myself more, and the point where I no longer, like I said, was triggered. I could go into the room now. She's going to blast here. She's probably going to blast here, and she's probably going to. But then I was unmoved because I no longer took it that she was actually trying to harm me. I just knew that she was hurting.
Mhm, mhm,
The minute I was understanding that she was still hurting from so many things that had happened in our lives and things that she'd been exposed to, it took away the charge. And once I turned off that charge, I couldn't be triggered anymore because now I had a different context to it. And sometimes we have got to get to the point where what's the context of that person?
right, right.
Right. So when you can see the context frame, you can go, okay, they're thinking this way. This is their experience. So they do this. But that's not who I am today. So
Mhm,
now when they're firing, I'm bulletproof. And it's not because
mhm,
I'm perfect. I just have a different context.
mhm,
So once I have a different context, I have a different view and I have a different way to process everything you do. And
mhm,
sometimes that's what we've got to do. Because once you do that, you can literally see everybody as an individual biometric. My biometric is mine. Your biometric is yours. It
right,
is
right.
not my responsibility to transform you. It is
Mm,
just my responsibility to transform me, work
right.
on me, grow me. The more I grow me, the more I'm able to love. And I love you without trading love with you. See, because
That's
we're in trades. If I do this for you, what are you going to do for me? Well, I did this for this, and she never did anything for me. Well, why were you trading? You've got to get to a point where you've chosen to be who you are to whoever you choose to be, right? And it's not a trade. The minute you get out of the trade game, I'm not disappointed. I have no expectations. This is just who I choose to be.
mhm.
And you meet me today, you meet me tomorrow. This is still who I choose to be. So I can be that person, right? And choice is a big thing. It's the master key. It's why you can put somebody in jail. Look at Nelson Mandela. You can put a person in jail, but they're not in jail because they don't choose to be there.
Correct.
Right. And this is this mind that God gave us. When He made us in His image and in His likeness, we have Him on the inside. It's a God thing on the inside. Can you affect God to shift Him?
Mhm,
Like He's going to change His personality for you? No, you don't do that. And that power is on the inside of us. So we can choose what we choose. God gave us this power thing. We don't realize how powerful choice is. And the
mhm,
thing is, most of us feel like we have no choices because other people have keys from us, right? They've got all these keys, and everybody's got keys, and they're unlocking this. And no, take your keys back. I'm going to choose who I want to be, regardless of what you say and what you do. So I show up as my choice. And that's what we've got to empower each other. What's your choice? Is this who you really choose to be? Or do you just have to be this?
That's good. That's
right?
good.
I love that you said that. It resonates with me. You are allowing that person to be who they are. You're not even trying to change them. It's all about you. You be who you are and allow them to be who they are. You're not trying to talk to them or put in anything about how you feel they should be. I'm allowing you to be who you are. You allow me to be who I am. I love that.
Well, go ahead, Cece. You can continue on since you don't.
I love that she said that. That just resonated. I mean, that should be with everybody. If we would stop trying to make people be something that we want them to be and just allow them to be who they are, but that doesn't affect us. We have to still have the God in us and be who we are put on this earth to be, which is kind, compassionate, respect each other, love each other. And that's all that we can do. That's it. I love that, Liz. Thank you for that.
No, that was definitely good. And I mean, I know even me personally, it's just when it comes to that relationship with her, I've never really wanted to change her because you're right. I had to put myself in a position where I looked at where that anger or where that animosity was coming from. It was coming from a place of hurt. To be a little more transparent, if you all were to read my book, God, Why Me? I talk all about it in the book. But the situation with my sister and I, we are 11 years apart. And I ended up becoming pregnant with my first daughter when I was 21. I was about to be 22. And at the time, a little backstory, my mom was injured in an accident when I was 14. So she had brain damage and she couldn't raise us anymore. My grandmother raised us. And at that time, because she was so young, my siblings, they looked to me as the mom. You know what I mean? I looked like my mom. I was the oldest, you know what I mean? So I took on a lot of that responsibility, even helping them in school, things of that nature. But when I got pregnant, it was like, I think my sister was so hurt by the fact that now you're going to have somebody else and you're not going to be able to take care of me. And we got into a fight and everything. And, she kicked me in my stomach and was like, I hope your baby died. She was 10. Yeah, Kim, yeah. That hurt me. You know what I mean? That hurt me. And that changed our relationship. Even now, we have, since connected with each other throughout the years, but it's always been that has stuck in my head because how could you say something like that to a child that's not even here? How could you be so hurtful, to say something like that when all I've ever wanted to do was love you? No, I'm not your mother. And everything that I've done for you or would do for you is because I wanted to. It wasn't like I was obligated to do anything. I wasn't obligated to take her shopping for school clothes or take her to the park or take her to the movies or anything that I did. Go to her school, volunteer. I was volunteer with her classroom all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have to do those things, but I knew at the time my grandmother couldn't do it. So somebody needed to, be there to be an influence for her. And yet, and still, our relationship has never been repaired from that. It's like the animosity just grew and it grew and it grew. And to be honest, even when I was diagnosed with my illness, I hadn't talked to my sister in like maybe 5 years. And she called me out of the blue. And she didn't say, I apologize. She didn't say anything. She just had a random conversation. And I had a random conversation back. I didn't make her feel bad or anything. But I hate to say it like this, but this is how I feel. She only called me because she thought I was dying. As soon as I got better, I haven't heard from her since. I've been cancer free for 3 years. Not once has she picked up a phone to call. Not once has she said, "How are you doing?" Not once has she asked about her nieces and nephews. Nothing. Nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, it's almost like, yes, you're my sister, we're blood, but I can't deal with you because you aren't even at a place yet where you're ready to heal. Yes, I've been able to be introspective. I've put my feelings aside to want to be there for her, and to be introspective and understanding her pain and all of these things. But if you're not in a place where you want that for you, I can't force it on you. I can't subject myself to that. And I feel like even a lot of us, we have family relationships that aren't always the best. We have, girlfriend relationships that aren't always the best, and when you're constantly finding yourself compromising and compromising and compromising for the other person, you got to sit back and say to yourself, well, this person not doing it for me. So why am I exerting this type of energy on someone who doesn't even want it for themselves? I can't continue. You know what I mean? Like, I can't continue to do that. So it's like, yes, I'm in a place in my life where I'm accepting of anyone wherever they are. If this is where you are, okay. If this is where this woman is and she's like, you know what? I want to be helped. I'm ready to heal. I'm there. But if you're not at that place where you're ready to make some changes within your own life and to want better for yourselves, no, I can't deal with you. And I mean, I'm just real with that. I can't deal with you because I'm in a place right now where it's about growth for me. It's about being on the up and up. And I have to surround myself with people that have that similar or same mindset. I can't necessarily go backwards right now to help someone or pull someone up if I'm still not really equipped myself. You know what I mean? I have to really get to a better place within myself to be able to go back and even touch that. I can't touch that yet. That's the area that I just got to keep under the rug because I can't touch that yet. That's a part of my healing that I have not fixed. And I can admit that I can't fix that yet.
There's this thing called embargo
I'm so
therapy.
glad that you would go ahead.
I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but it's a great thing to just go and kind of read about and study. And one of the things it brings to light is that regardless of somebody's physical age, wherever they were first wounded and haven't healed, that's actually the age they are when they.
That's true. That's true.
Process things. So you can be with somebody who's 50, 70 years old, but they're still acting like a 3-year-old child. Because that's where that wound started that has never been healed. So you get a grown person with gray hair, right, who comes at you like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And it's hard to process that. Do you know what I mean? Because when we look at people, we see the package that they come in. Like, what are you acting like? But it's a 3-year-old. And a 3-year-old, you can kind of like pick up and go, hey, stop, behave, calm down, calm down, calm down,
Right.
calm down. But you can't do that with like a 60-something-year-old. Pick him up and go, calm down, calm down, calm down. So this is where I think, families, communities, and I can talk to this because I've had to deal with it very much in my family, right? Is helping people to see where they are. It's a book. It's a podcast. It's a YouTube short. Right. Oh my gosh, I just watched this and it blew my mind. I had no idea that I even felt this way. So it looks like it's you who's got the issue. But really, I know you need to hear this. But I need to make it sound like I got an enlightenment and I'm trying to share my enlightenment with you that, oh my God, I didn't know I was here, but this really helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Sometimes it's those little breadcrumbs that we can offer people who are close to us, because we're all in the same stages when it comes to families. We've had pains that are pains from each other, pains from the environments that we've been in, right? And then we go out into community at large, meeting people who came from other families where their pains and their issues, and we're just all banging up against different issues at different points in time. And it affects who we are as women, right? It does affect us. There's no way to say it doesn't affect us, but it is that thing of, like you said, getting to that place where everybody starts to look inside. And why do I react like that when somebody who's not related to me, I don't know, says that particular thing? Why did it trigger me? When you can sit with yourself and begin to unpack, which is why I think therapy and coaching is so very important. It's worth the investment. If you can find it free somewhere, get it. So somebody can walk you through your lifeline, because our lifeline, there's lots of things that happen, and sometimes somebody's got to be able to take you back to the 3-year-old you, the 6-year-old you, the 8-year-old you, and unpack some stuff. I remember I was getting married and went back home to England and happened to turn on a certain street, and all of a sudden I got this memory of being raped. I was 37 years old. I had no idea I'd ever been raped in my life, but everything came back. The people who were in the room, the whole 9 yards. I didn't even know this had happened to me. But it came back in that one moment. And I'm trying to make sense of this thing. And why was I at that house? How did I end up at that? Who were those people? Who brought? And it then unpacked a whole bunch of other stuff that was kept secret that I had no idea about. And then I had to, work through dealing with all of that new news. 30-something years old, finding out something happened to me when I was 6 years old. It was like crazy. But trauma will always be there causing drama. But as long as we're on this life, this thing called life, we're going to have to deal with these pieces as they come up and deal with them the best way you can, with grace and forgiveness. The muscle of forgiveness is a muscle we have got to work on every angle, for yourself, for others, for your family, and for all the people we think don't deserve it. We got to work it on all angles till that muscle becomes so ripped in us. Forgiveness is like breathing.
It is.
And when it becomes like breathing, your air around your life is so peaceful because nothing gets a chance to attach and take root in you anymore. So forgiveness is a muscle we just got to work on all the angles. It'll help us do the journey of womanhood.
It does. I appreciate that. Thank you. That was good. That was good. Rosalind, let me get you to make a comment as well. I know you may have to leave, but if not, go ahead.
I know I thought everything was beautiful, and being able to forgive, to allow space to welcome the new, because that's what's most important. Our brains can only function or think about one thing at a time. I mean, I have ADHD, so I think about 1,000 things at once with everything I have going on. But for the most part, it's trying to trying to practice to control your mind and focusing on what you can control, because that it doesn't help you or serve you in any way, shape, or purpose by focusing on the pain. And I know that's so easy to say because there were so many things that I heard from you ladies tonight that I could relate to. That's why I speak about stillness and having that time with God. Like I can't really express that enough because He speaks to me, and it's almost like those answers that you hear that you're searching for. It's there. It's just a matter of cut the noise, cut the chaos. Like this world is crazy. Everything is going to be thrown at us. But that's what I wanted to add. Um, yeah, trying to allow space for the new. And I'm so sorry of what you went through with your sister. And I can honestly say that even hearing that, if I had to put myself in your shoes, that would be a struggle for me as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely trying. You know what I mean? And like I said, I love her dearly. I really do. I wish our relationship was much different. Um, but again, I can't make her into the woman I want her to be. You know what I mean? I just can't do it. So until I know she's in that place where she's ready to communicate, or we can have a healthy communication,
Yeah.
I'm there. No
It's
doubt.
it's gonna take time.
It
And
is.
it's not gonna be easy. But just as Dr. Elizabeth, that she was speaking earlier, yeah, I lost my train of thought of what I was about to say, but um, when it just comes down to just like your sibling, I would say time, especially when you're the older sibling and you're like a parent, and sometimes they may seem ungrateful. I
Very
can
much.
understand.
Very
And
much
so,
so.
yes, yeah.
Very much so. But yeah, I that's definitely something that I'm still unpacking, and even touching back on something that Tosh was saying, as far as journaling. I know for me it has helped, even with me writing my part one of my book. I really had to unpack so much stuff. Like literally, as I was writing it, I was feeling every single emotion. If it was a funny moment, I'm sitting there laughing while I'm writing. If it was a sad moment, I'm literally in tears because it was almost like I was bringing up all of these past emotions, but at the same time, I was releasing them. So it's like when I go back now and I talk about certain situations, or I bring up certain situations that were really painful for me, I don't attach the pain to it anymore. It's an experience. I lived through it, but I'm now in a place where I can talk about it, and I can talk freely about it without the emotional attachment to it. That to me lets me know that I've been able to release it properly. I've been able to heal from it properly. Um, so I know for me that was really, really helpful. Like I said, as far as me unpacking that baggage and me not being like the bag lady, I had to let some of those things go. That I'm telling you, that song is my life. That was my life. That was my life. It was my life, and I mean, just even the part where she was saying how, hold on, let me think. She said one day, he gonna say you're crowding my space. That's how I felt. Like I was bringing all my baggage into these relationships and into these situations, and it was like, well, who am I dealing with? You or all this other stuff? You got too much stuff going on. I can't even get to you because I got to get through all this other baggage that you got laying at your feet. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm so glad I have released a lot. But yeah, when it comes to her, that's still a touchy situation, and I trust that God will work that out over time. I believe He will.
Just keep sharing your story. I wanted to say that to you because you're in a safe space here. And so if you're around other people that seek nothing but the best for you truly, it's going to get easier. And just talking about it and seeing how other people work through theirs, because we all come together with unity, and then people can tell you how they sorted it. And so try not to hold things in. If there's a person that you can confide in, try to not hold it in if that's a person that you can trust, because that will help release.
It does. Thank you. Thank you. I felt like this was going to be for everybody else, but it ended up being for me. So thank y'all.
I just wanted to piggyback off what you said about your emotions in your journaling, because you allowed yourself to sit in that pain.
Yeah.
You allowed your emotions, and now you know how to manage and control your emotions. So when you speak about your experience, it doesn't bother you anymore. I'm not going to say it doesn't bother you, but it's an experience that you can share now because you've allowed yourself to get past it.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Maria, did you have something you wanted to add or piggyback in there as well? Maria. Okay, she might be a little delayed again. I think the storm might have froze her up a little bit. Okay, go ahead, Maria.
Are you calling me?
Yes, I was. I was going to say,
So what the lady shared was What the lady shared was so wonderful. But you said a couple of things that had me ask more questions to what you were saying. And
Okay,
so you
go ahead.
said that you wrote the book.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you said that you wrote the book and that you know that you were able to feel the moments and then that you released them the proper way. But then I also heard you say previous to that that things still trigger you. So
Mhm.
how, if you're healed, can you really be triggered? That's my question. If you're really
That's
healed,
a
can you
good
really be
question.
triggered?
That's a
So
good
that's
question.
one. That's
That's
one.
a good
And then
question.
the other
Okay.
thing is you said was that you really love her, right? You really
Mhm.
love her. And then when I think about what love means by God's definition, not man's, love is
Mhm.
patient, love is kind, love is, it
Mhm.
keeps no record of wrongs. If we think about what love is, are you actually do you really love her? That she was 10 years old when she kicked you, right?
Trust
She
me,
was
it's
10.
more to the story than that. That was
um
just the first
so I
incident.
think that she was very, very young, and I
Mhm.
know that obviously it was still a hurtful thing, but she
Mhm.
was a little girl.
Mhm.
She was very young. and
Okay.
um and so I know that that doesn't change the fact that it was hurtful. I know that it doesn't change that fact, but I think that grace also comes in with if you really love her, you don't keep that record of wrong, and you know, you allow that. And although things have still manifested into her adulthood, um, my sister Rosalind said, you know, things take time. But my
Mhm.
question is, with this last cancer scare, what about if there isn't time?
Mhm.
And I say this because I took care of my best friend who had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer um, for 2 years. And we didn't have issues, but I take life, you know, life is but a vapor. And what about if you
Mhm.
don't have time? I mean, in all honesty, we think we have tomorrow, but do we?
Right. I agree. I totally agree with you, Maria, in saying that and speaking from the fact that I had stage 4 cancer. So I understand now the value of life and all that encompasses it. But at the same time, it's like I have to also look from a standpoint of how do I want to live the rest of my life? Do I want to live the rest of my life
Oh, yeah,
being
protecting your people.
correct? I have to protect me now. And I didn't do that before. My thing
Mhm.
was, yes, that situation that I spoke of, that was just one incident. Like there have been other incidents throughout her
Correct.
adulthood that I've had to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it was never
Mhm.
an issue of me not wanting to try to forgive or me not wanting to extend an olive branch because I did it numerous times and yet and still
Mhm.
it was cut. So it's like, how many more times am I? I mean, and I know biblically it says you're supposed to
70
forgive your brother
times 7.
70 times 7. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like, come on now. I'm
So, but
I'm being I'm
forgiveness
being
and boundaries are two different things. You can
mm-hmm.
forgive and still have a boundary.
True,
Do you understand
true.
what I'm
And I
saying? You
feel
can
like I
forgive
have.
her, release her from whatever she has done. And so, and speaking of that, during that time when I had 3 friends who were diagnosed with cancer, December, January, February. And I asked the Lord, I said, what is the root of this? Like, because what the heck is that? Like December, January, February. And they were all leaders, right? And so as the old saints say it, by and by, the Lord started to show me certain things that happened in their life. And um, one of the things I understood was via the Holy Spirit is that the reason forgiveness is so vital is because it decays in
Yeah,
our body. It makes us sick.
yes.
And so that's why
Yes.
forgiveness is not just for the other person, it's for us, because we make ourselves sick. We're the ones who get sick
Yes.
for the lack of, we have resentment, bitterness, malice, unforgiveness, all of these things in our heart, and it has nowhere to go. Not to mention that a lot of times we forget this text. If you're a Bible believer, it says, "Forgive as I have forgiven you. If you do not forgive, I shall not forgive you." So some people who think that they're going to heaven is going to bust hell wide open because they have unforgiveness in their heart. And so we have to remember that the forgiveness is not just for you. I absolutely have people that I have boundaries with, but I've forgiven them and I've released them. So I think that one of the key things is knowing that the two are not one and the same. Um, you can absolutely set a boundary to protect your peace, because one things as women that we don't do sometimes, because we want to live in harmony and live peacefully and things of that nature, we just allow all types of things and negativity and people in our space. No, we don't have to do that. We can absolutely set boundaries for ourselves and protect our peace, whether it's in relationship, whether it's with family. We have to protect our peace, but we also need to be able to release and forgive and not allow that contamination to be seated in our heart. Love you. Love you. I
Shawan,
love you so much.
Shawan, I just wanted to chime in because there are, like, as I went through and am currently going through my healing process, because it's never ending.
Correct.
No one has absolutely arrived. I don't care what anybody says,
Correct.
right? It is a lie to even act like you have. And it's a sin to say I got it all together and somebody else don't.
That's right.
You understand? There, what I found out in my own walk with Christ and my own walk with God is that there are levels to my healing. And Shawan, you remember me telling you this, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I don't know. Like like I can be in the third grade of my healing, and and I'm about to take the test because I want to see have I really worked this thing out. And I get there and it's the midterms and I squeak by with a 65. I can believe and know in my heart of hearts that I'm going to be tested again in this area to see if I've truly healed. And the only thing that I want to say to everybody watching on YouTube and anywhere else, is that everything that we've been through, gone through, it's a process. It's not just a process for you, it's a process for the other person who's toiling with usually their own stuff that you don't really know anything about, right? The trauma of what your sister experienced at watching her mother perhaps in the hospital at such a young age and being able to deal with that, and then you seeing it from your view being 11 years older, and trying to find the capacity, if you will, to be able to cope with this major shift in your life, and then looking for someone, to love you. Because wait. What happened? Right? What has just happened? And trying to process that as a child and then again as a young adult. Right? And then here you are about to give birth to a baby. So not only not only is it difficult for you to process, it's difficult for her to process, but then everybody has to, what they say is not in the Bible. Y'all know this is not biblical, but they say every tub got to sit on his own good bottom. That part. You're gonna get there, sweetie, when you get there. This entire conversation is about what it takes to be a good woman. The whole entire conversation is rooted in that. Yes, it is biblical. What does God say about us? What is the Proverbs 31 woman? What is she doing, right? How does she show up in the world? How is she with her children? How is she with her husband? Um, what are the expectations of this woman, right? And then looking at how God set us up, as women, emotional, the levels. Thank you, Lord, for everything that you've given us because it makes us so dynamic, right? Because we have empathy, we have compassion. We don't beat each other down. We love on one another. That's why we live so long because we create communities where we can be safe, right? And so when I begin to think about that and how we show up in the world at the different levels that we're on, because everybody's not in the same place, right? Everybody's not. How we show up in the world is so important, but it's all part of the process that makes us so beautifully flawed and so beautifully human. And so, like allowing yourself to be as transparent as you've been here on this platform, like and authentic and sitting in that. Yeah, it's what makes you so beautiful. You see, there could be judgment tied to that, depending upon watches later on. Um, howsomever. What we're doing here in this environment, especially concerning what you shared, is just knowing that as flawed as we are, all of us, there is so much beauty in our stories, how we show up and where we come to in this world. Now, I don't tell people this. I am an evangelist. I don't tell nobody that. I don't tell anybody that. You know why? Because I sometimes do some things, and you know me, Shawan, and I say some things. I know the good word of God, and I often had to ask God. I said, God, are you sure? Because you know my mouth, and you know how I give it up. I'm from New York, you see, and so I know you. I said, you sure? You know how you be like, God, you sure? But I know that His gifts and His callings are without repentance. Hello. And the things that He's chosen for us to do, we don't immediately get it. I often reconcile this to Jay-Z being in the lab. Not that I want to mention Jay-Z because I don't even listen to his music, but he was there long before anybody saw him on the big stages, long before there was a Beyonce. I'm saying it again for probably the fourth time. Every single thing that you've gone through, every pain, every ache, every tear that you've cried, God is going to use it for His glory and your good. And the fact that you can sit here and be this transparent, YouTube, that's the world. Oh my God. Right? We need what you're doing now as women because some women are afraid to say because they'll be judged. And if we are in safe spaces and we create safe spaces for each other, like I know you let a few expletives go. But this is a safe place. And we are giving all glory and all honor to God, but He knows just exactly who we are. And we could get on here in front for real. I'll keep it 100, right? And just know that he knows it all. He know that you cuss. He know that you do this. And all of it is a work in progress for all of us because we're just all in these wonderful and beautiful spaces where we are growing through everything that we've been through.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to tell you too, Kim, there is something that you used to say that I kind of tagged, so don't be mad, but I've kind of rebranded it a little bit. But you always used to say, confession is good for the soul, but it's bad for the
Bad
reputation.
for the reputation. Child. Hello, somebody.
And
Hello.
honestly, when I wrote
That's
my
a
book,
good
that
one.
was the first thing I thought of. That was the first thing I thought of because I knew the transparency that I was putting out, it could, somebody else could read that and be like, what in the world? What type of
Right.
woman is this? Like, how
Right.
did she do this? Or why did she do this? And she
Right.
this and she was, but I had to do it for me. It was
Right.
something that I had to get out for me. And it's
Yes.
like, yeah, I mean, yeah, there may be some ridicule from some of the things that I
Yes.
did, or even ridicule about some of the choices that I've made in my life.
Yes.
At this point in my life, me even putting enough of my truth out there, it was so that I could help somebody else, because somebody else is in that same position. Somebody else
Yes.
is going through that same scenario of being a single mother and not having a means or a way, or
Or support.
is
Right.
in a homeless shelter right now with her kids, wondering how they're going to get out. Or it's another one
Yes.
somewhere that's in a toxic relationship, wondering why they even got in it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that level of truth was
Yeah.
needed, not for
Yeah.
me. And I understand even more so now. That's the parallel with the title of the book. I put God, Why Me? I couldn't understand why it seemed like I was going through all this hardship. But now
Right.
I even understand the magnitude of why it happened. Because it wasn't because I was doing anything wrong necessarily, or that I was a bad person. It was actually because there was going to be this, God already knew this day was coming, and that my experiences were
Yeah.
going to help someone else.
And set them
I went
free.
through all of that for somebody else,
Yes.
you know?
To set them free.
So for me not to tell it, for me not to expose it, for me not to share it, that's like a slap in God's face. I
Yeah.
had to do it.
Yeah. He brought you through
I have
it.
to do it. I
Yes.
have to be that living example. And it's not
Yes.
always easy. It's not always, um, a easy walk. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because there is going to be some type of ridicule. There is going, you're always going to have a Judas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're going to have
Yeah.
someone that's going to,
Sometimes we the Judas.
you're right.
Shut up.
If we're
Shut up.
honest.
If we are, so because sometimes we are. We don't always know, Shawan, and that's the beauty of living this life.
Mm-hmm.
Like my sister, like everybody I talk to on the phone, the very last thing I say to them is I love you because I mean it. And if we were to hang up the phone and anything was to happen to me today or tomorrow, I would, deal with, they would know at least at the very least that I love them and I meant it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes we just have to pray for them. And when we get to the point of praying for whomever it is without any contact, right? And not asking God to change them, but asking God to help us,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be better or to see them differently, right? Through the lens that He sees His children. Because God knows everything that your little sister is feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And God will make a way at some point. If it is really in your heart and what God wants for you and your sister, and He's all about relationships. I mean, from Genesis to Revelation is about relationship, right? So if that be the case, He will find a way where He will give your sister soften her heart towards you and also help you through what you need to work through so that when you do come together, it'll be because you prayed. It'll be because God is answering you. It'll be a union that can't, a reuniting, I should say.
Right.
Where it's just on a totally and completely different level. And it'll be like tears, but it'll also be release for both of y'all and forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
And if God don't say so, then that might be where it's at. You may never get, because you don't know the day, the minute, or the hour, right? None of us do. But your prayer and all of our prayers for our families and our friends and, sometimes difficult relationships to be, Lord, help me to understand what they're going through. Help me to understand. Lord, help me find the words. Don't let me speak, Lord. but you give me the words to speak to them about their situation and or their circumstance, right? So it's hard, but that's how we make it through. Like, because sometimes we don't want to do what God told us to do either. And sometimes He telling us, shut your pie hole, just shut it up, keep it real, right? And get on your knees and pray about it. You don't got to say nothing. You don't have to fight. You don't have to do anything. You could just shut your mouth and give me my due, right? And pray for whoever it is that seems to be the problem. And sometimes it's us. Honestly, sometimes it is us. We don't always want to admit that. But becoming a good woman is ownership, accountability, responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're getting better, that's what we're doing. Yeah. Okay. I'm done. I'm muting.
Well, you know what? I am going to end this segment on that note, because that was really good. And that's like the best takeaway for the night as far as being a good woman. It's about ownership. It's about responsibility and accountability. And ultimately those components are what we need to apply each and every day to our lives so that we can be effective as leaders. If we are leaders, if we are servants, if we are entrepreneurs, if we are mothers, or whatever our hat is that we are wearing that day. So with that being said, I wanted to thank you ladies for being here on this first night. Trust me, we could go on and on and on, but I know you all have things to do, and so do I. So we are going to continue this on next week's show with our next topic. But thank you ladies again for gracing my stage. This has definitely been an honor, and I appreciate you all. So with that being said, good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Find us on our social media page.
Tune in for our next video. Make sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you won't miss out on any future episodes.